Good boy. Sit down. Sit. Good boy, Willie. Good boy, Willie. Well, this is the first time that Willie and I have been able to make it all the way up to the national forest above our land. Come on, Willie. Let's go. And unfortunately, someone thought they didn't need to pick up all of their shotgun shells and the trash that they left behind. So Willie and I picked up all the trash, but I will never understand how a person could come up here and see the beauty and then leave trash behind on their way out. Willie is really turning in to be a special dog, and he wants to go where I go, so I'm going to build a pad on the back of the wheeler so he can sit comfortably as we ride around. Well, last week I got the heavy-duty rock trailer frame narrowed and the axles narrowed. Now it's time to give it a backbone and something to hold all the rocks in. I'm going to add 2 full-length pieces of 3x4 angle iron from the tongue all the way to the back of the trailer, which should really stiffen things up. Now that I've got some structure welded into this frame, I'm going to take the grating that came with it and build a trailer that's heavy duty enough to handle whatever I move with this trailer. Like everything around here, this trailer has to be multi-purpose as well. So whether I'm hauling boulders or just rock or even firewood, it needs to be heavy duty. So this week's video is sponsored by Sunday, and this will be the 3rd season that we have used Sunday to get our grass established and as green as possible.
Sunday is a lawn care plan that's customized just for you to ensure success, and it's shipped free straight to your door.
Our kids and dogs are out on this lawn, so having a product with no harsh chemicals in it is important to us. With carefully selected ingredients, Sunday has our safety and our family in mind. Part of the reason I enjoy using Sunday so much is just because it's so simple. I hook the nutrient pouches up to my sprayer, hook the sprayer up to my hose, turn the sprayer on. 15 minutes later, the job's done.
Whether it's a soil test or fertilizer, Sunday has all your needs covered when it comes to lawn care. Go to getsunday.com/redpoppyranch and use the code redpoppyranch30 to get 30% off your first lawn plan.
Thank you, Sunday. Our grass is getting greener every day. One of my goals with this trailer is just to keep the expenses low. It's only going to be used for rocks and boulders and things heavy like that, so most of the time it's going to sit. The guy that I got it from threw in a bunch of this grating that I'm going to use for the decking and for the sides if I have enough. And if I have enough scrap steel, I should have all my materials in order. Mother Nature, like a lot of people in the world right now, also can't decide if she's coming or going, so there happens to be a chance of snow this weekend as well. All of the grating is rusty and a little bit fun to weld, but at the same time, the guy threw it in with the trailer, so I'm going to make it work.
Keith and I both grew up in Arizona, and we had citrus trees in our backyard. So both of us have fond memories of going outside and picking a fresh orange. So when we went down to visit for spring break, luckily there was still some citrus on the trees. And so I went to one of my brother's house, and he had fresh lemons and fresh oranges and gave us a couple bags full. And then another one of my brothers had fresh grapefruit and fresh oranges. So we're gonna squeeze some oranges today, make some orange juice, and relive those childhood memories.
In the family home that Cedar grew up in, I believe they had around 8 or maybe even 10 citrus trees. And about a mile away in the family home that I grew up in, we would have somewhere around 6 or 7 citrus trees as well as pecan trees. And there also happened to be a huge, beautiful garden that fed all of us as we grew up. But there happened to be a very large pink grapefruit tree right in the center of the backyard that just talking about makes my mouth water. Every once in a while when I take on a big project like this and I spend a couple of days doing one specific thing like welding, occasionally I have a breakthrough and I get better. I will end up using somewhere around 24 pounds of 035 welding wire on this trailer to get the job done. Yes, 24 pounds of welding wire. Sounds like a lot because it is a lot. But in the process of using that 24 pounds of wire, I figured out why my welds look the way they do. There was a time not that long ago where most men knew how to weld. Most men knew how to use a hammer and an anvil. Most men knew how to shoe a horse. Most men knew how to work on a car. Every time I take on a project like this, I have an opportunity to gain a little bit more when it comes to skills. And that's always what I'm hoping happens, because the more skills I can accumulate and learn, the more likely my quality of life can improve and the less I have to depend on somebody else to do that for me. Now, the way that I happened to grow up in my childhood, I regularly found myself alone when I needed help. And what that caused me to do is just simply depend on nobody but myself. And I suppose that can be a little bit lonely at times, but what that has done is make it very clear to me who's responsible for what. So again, the more skills I have, the less I have to depend on anybody but me. So while I prefer to be as independent as I possibly can, we live in a world that wants to convince you that every problem you have is not your fault and is not directly connected to decisions you've made, which is a lie. So for me, one of the counterbalances in my life for all the lies that are currently coming at me is just to ignore them and to continue to get better at the things that I want to get better at, which again directly affects my family and the people I love and care about the most. When things get hard, things can get real simple. And again, I found in these situations, I want to be dependable when it matters most. Now my hope is to keep this trailer heavy duty enough to handle the abuse, yet light enough to be moved around by maybe my skid steer or even the side-by-side. I know the excavator will be able to move this thing around just fine, but the excavator is the slowest piece of equipment that I have. And the boulder garden where I intend on getting boulders is about a half mile up the side of the mountain. Now, a few days ago, we just had the 8th anniversary since purchasing what would become Red Poppy Ranch. And while it feels like in the moment these projects can take forever, when I look back collectively at what we've accomplished, I feel good on the inside for all the right reasons. Every once in a while, I go back and watch videos from those first couple of years, and they always bring a smile to my face. The quality control inspector approves. I was 37 years old, and that year my dad would die, and that seemed to be the catalyst that I needed to move my family back to southeastern Idaho. 1 year later, I would buy the land that would become Red Poppy Ranch. 2 years after that, on my 40th birthday, I would pour the concrete slab that our house now sits on. And 1 month from now, I'm going to turn 47 years old. Uh-oh. Our fallow deer buck Skipper seems to have shed his first antler here at Red Poppy Ranch. The deer are a little keyed up because Willie is literally sitting on the other side of the fence waiting for me to come out. But typically twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, regardless of where I'm working and what I'm doing, I always stop to come out here and interact with a deer in some way. And this last week I had 2 of the does eat out of my hand for the first time. Well, our dog Ruby had a run-in with something sharp this last week that led to a couple of stitches. And we'll talk about that on next week's video. But the rock trailer is just about done. Well, up until now, we've never tried to keep our dogs contained really in any way up here at Red Poppy Ranch. We simply teach them to be obedient and to stay close by. And if you've paid attention, that obviously hasn't worked so well with our dog Ruby. I ran out of grating, so I had to use some expanded metal on the tailgate for the trailer, but the trailer's done. I'm going to guess that the final weight on the heavy-duty rock trailer came in under 1,500 pounds, which is what I was hoping for. This means I can move it around again with the side-by-side and the skid steer and the excavator for sure. So one of the very last things that I have to do to use the new rock trailer is I have to cut in an off-ramp right here on the new landing. And the dirt is finally getting hard enough that I can do this without doing too much damage. Well, Willie was sitting a little bit too close to the excavator, and I nearly got him with some of the smaller limbs on the tree, but thank goodness I missed him. But now he thinks he did something wrong, so I need to make sure he knows he's okay. Willie is the smartest dog I have ever owned, and I sure don't want him to get hurt around here. I decided to run Willie down to the house where he can be with Cedar and the kids while I'm up here running the excavator. Well, you're not going to get to see the rock trailer in action on this week's video, but on next week's video, the weather looks great, and I think I'm going to start stacking rocks on the retaining wall. Thank you guys for taking time to check on us. We'll see you guys in 7 days.